afternoon, hello and welcome to ICB TV. We are here to help you navigate the sea of accounting software. I am joined by my two children in the room with me. You may hear them throughout the broadcast, but also two fantastic members of our ICB community. There seems like every day there's a new package, new features being released. So we are going to be speaking to Catherine Pyman and Chrissy Aplin, who are going to help us find out more and more about the software that they use, so that hopefully you can that will help you make the decisions about what software you might want to use or consider using. So hello Catherine.
Hi.
Hello. Hello Chrissy.
Hi.
So what we're going to do, without further ado, I will mute myself, but maybe we can start off with Catherine. Seeing as Sage has been around for such a long time, what can you tell us about why you choose to use Sage and what you like about it?
Okay. Well, obviously, initially, I used Sage because that's what I did my qualifications with. So I was familiar on the desktop version. So I still have a number of clients still on desktop. And then obviously the cloud era appeared and had to move with the times. So I looked at the cloud version, which the first version of Sage Cloud obviously wasn't the best, which Sage will hold their hands up to.
So that was Sage 1, wasn't it?
Sage 1, yeah. You've got to eradicate Sage 1 from your mind.
And so that's been rebranded, and what's it called now?
So it's now Sage Accounting. And it's a completely different product. And now I'm going to say it does everything I need it to. And I'm now transferring the clients that I've got on Sage Desktop. I'm now trying to migrate onto Sage Accounting. So, and then just have everything in one place.
And how is that going? Have your clients been receptive to
yeah. I mean, a lot of my clients don't get involved in the software anyway, so it's just by my choice. It's the ones that obviously are more involved, but it's allowing them to do more of their own invoicing and quotes through Sage Accounting. So, and also for them to keep more of a track of their financials. So I think it's and it's going to make my life so much easier, especially with everything that Sage are introducing at the moment. So.
Fantastic. Am I right in thinking that we're actually going to have an in-depth review of the new Sage offering by you?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, I'm working with Julia at the moment, so we've got a meeting next week to discuss that in more detail. So, but it's covering the final accounts, personal tax, Sage Accounting. So it's all rapidly bringing it together. And sorry, my camera is having a field day.
It's so weird. It's making a noise now too.
Is it?
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. So, so Catherine's camera keeps refocusing on her. Obviously thinks you're moving around and doing things. Fantastic. That was fantastic. What a great sum up. Christy, so tell us about what software you tend to use.
So I started my practice just under 3 years ago, and like Catherine, it was sort of that cloud era that I came into. So Making Tax Digital was on the in sight and everything. So when I first started, I actually looked at all the software, and I spoke to a lot of other bookkeepers because I thought that was the best place to start off. Some software I got on with, some I didn't. I don't use because my favourite one is FreeAgent, but I don't use that solely. I do use other software, and I'm very much for choosing the software that's right for the client, not rather than saying I just use that software, so what you want has to fit into that. So I try and tailor what clients want to the software. But FreeAgent for me, right from the start, it just seemed very intuitive to use, very client friendly as well. And I've moved people from other accounting software onto it, and I've moved people from spreadsheets onto it. And certainly the feedback that I get from clients is they love the visibility of it. One of the ones I moved on to there was on a desktop service before, where they didn't have any visibility through their accountant. They didn't see anything. They just got their accounts once a year. Whereas now it's sort of like, well, you can actually see this, and you can see your corporation tax estimate, and you can see your VAT returns. You can see that in there, and you've got so much more visibility than they had before. So for me, it's from the client's point of view, it's very user friendly, and that's what I like about it.
Do you think, I mean, it seems to be like what you're saying really is that online software has a lot of things, has a lot to offer compared to desktop software. But have either of you considered an alternative like QuickBooks Online or Xero? Are those features available also in that software?
Yeah, I do have clients that are on QuickBooks and Xero. Like I said, if that's what they use when I take them on as a client, then that's what I continue with. But I think Sage is now, like I say, I just find it much more user friendly than other softwares. You can have you can set it up as two integrations, so you can have it on like a customer profile or an accountant profile. So it uses more of the terminology for customers, so they can set that side, and then I have it on the accounting bookkeeping. So it more talks in more terminology that I understand, and I just find that is really useful. But sometimes the only thing if you've got a customer on the phone and they're on a screen and you're obviously looking at your version to their version, you've got to remember to switch it over so you can talk them through.
Well, that seems like a really cool feature, actually, bookkeeping, bookkeeper lingo versus client.
Yeah, that's it, because some of them, they do use terminology that is more used in, I guess, in their country of origin. So, like, I like to see VAT, I don't like to see taxes. I don't, I like to see my debtor and creditors. I don't like to see accounts payable, accounts receivable. But that's from a bookkeeping point of view. But as a customer, if they want to see it the other way, they can do.
What kind of terminology does FreeAgent use on the whole?
So again, it uses very user friendly, like Catherine says. It's that kind of, it's money in, money out. Just as a total aside, to someone who doesn't use accounting software, I was speaking to someone the other day, and he was going, well, the bank account, it's overdrawn. So is that a debit or is that a credit? And do I need to, and he was sort of almost getting into that accountant lingo on it, but he was confusing himself in doing so. Because obviously it can get confusing if you don't sort of understand the double entry and how that works and having a debit and a credit. Whereas, yeah, FreeAgent is very much aimed at the end user, and it is in those terminologies of money in, money out. Rather than debits or credits or anything else like that. So
and do you think, is there any kind of, is that sort of a compromise then in that sense? Because FreeAgent, am I right in thinking FreeAgent is really designed for the smaller business, particularly the sole trader?
Yeah, so I'd say FreeAgent for the sole trader and for micro entities. That for me is where it's ideal. So when you've got sort of the couple of directors, you've got the smaller businesses, it's ideal for that. For the larger businesses, not quite so much, but obviously depending on, again, what services you're offering. For me, where I do micro entity accounts and I do self-assessments, that is my target market. So actually it fits in well from my side on that.
So can I ask you both about your sort of client, your client population, and what do you kind of specialize in a certain sector, and what percentage of them are sole traders, micro businesses, or limited companies? That's a bit of a tricky question.
Do you want to go first this time, Chrissy? And I did first.
No, you carry on.
Okay. Right. Well, majority of my clients are VAT registered, which I think it's easier from keeping on top of paperwork perspective, because if they're just the tax returns, you only get paperwork once a year. So I just find it, the quarterly VAT returns just make everybody's life easier just to keep on top, and also I'm going to say it keeps their financials more up to date. So majority of mine are limited companies that are VAT registered, with I don't think I've got any partnerships now, and I've got a few sole traders that are also VAT registered, and then other than that, it's tax returns and the smaller businesses. But again, Sage, they've changed the products that they do now. So Sage Accounting is for your larger businesses, that have got your purchase and sales ledger, but they do Sage Start, which is the more of a cash base. So if somebody's just running their business through a bank account, but they don't really issue invoices or receive purchase invoices, or they pay on a cash basis rather than in 30 days. But then Sage have recently introduced 2 other products for Ledger and Bureau, which allow more control from. So if if a client approaches me about doing their accounts, I can just set them up so I have access, and that works out at a cheaper option for the client as well. So they have really sort of reviewed what the actual needs are in the marketplace. So I find that has helped, especially with me deciding on which product, because there's such a difference between Sage Start and Sage Accounting. It's just easier that you've got the 4 options now rather than just the 2.
Still so confusing, isn't it? So even if you pick your vendor, you still have to pick the package.
Yeah.
Somebody has actually asked, Jen has asked, how does Sage Accounting differ from Sage 50 Cloud Accounts?
Okay, so Sage 50 Cloud Account is more your desktop version. So it still is, I will say, whilst it is cloud-based, I still feel as though it's more on a desktop.
It's kind of cloud enabled.
Yeah.
So there's a sort of cloud connection.
Yeah, but it's still using what I call the original Sage. So it does the same, but it does look very, very different. So that's one thing I was really surprised at when I first went on Sage Cloud, that it does look a very different screen to the one that you look at on the desktop version. So hopefully that answered the question.
Oh, fantastic. So Chrissie, what's your sort of client split like?
So I think mine's probably about 1/3 sole traders, 1/3 monthly bookkeeping with VAT returns, and then 1/3 the micro entity end of year. But what I've started doing, certainly for my self-assessments, it's one of these. In my first year, it was one of those things I didn't really think about. It just did, right, yeah, offer the service, end of January deadline, chasing people for things, and then January was just horrific. So what I've started doing now, just as a general thing, is I actually, for most of those people who are on self-assessment, I get their receipts from the monthly, and I actually do it on a monthly basis throughout the year. So when we get to the end of the tax year in April, actually I've got everything, or near enough everything there, ready to do the tax return, rather than waiting for them to provide information. And that works really well actually from a cash flow point of view as well, in that I charge them monthly, because they don't notice it as much, a monthly fee going out than once a year. So it works from both aspects. So, but yeah, about 1/3 of mine are self-assessments.
So you're doing kind of a monthly bookkeeping service for everybody, apart from the people that you're just doing annual tax returns for.
Yeah, but the way I do it is that obviously they give it to me monthly. If I do it every 2 months, every 3 months, but I've got that information there, rather than waiting for them to provide it, which works a bit better.
So Gillian O has asked about FreeAgent. She's using it herself for an existing client who gets it free, because you get FreeAgent free with is it NatWest, RBS, and Metal accounts?
Metal now, yes, yeah.
So that's a bit of a deal. So they're setting up a limited company and will be a micro entity for a few years. So micro entity is about five employees, would you say?
I think, I just said, but I think it's like 10 employees. I think it's like 10 employees, I think.
So the majority of small businesses definitely fall within that category. So they're going to be a micro entity for a few years without VAT. I plan to use TaxFiler for corporation tax. So TaxFiler is another software just for tax returns. Is FreeAgent likely to be up to the job, or might I be better off to start her on something a bit heavier duty?
Personally, I'd say FreeAgent is up to their job, and actually TaxFiler, and I haven't used it yet, TaxFiler announced, I think it was about a month ago, that actually they link up directly with FreeAgent now. So you can, TaxFiler link, I don't know whether it's all the software, there's several softwares they link with, but they have now got a link with FreeAgent. So I look forward to using that, because actually that should make it much easier, rather than having to take the trial balance out of FreeAgent and put it manually into Tax Filer. There should be that connection between it.
And what sort of thing would make you then use, so if you can use can you use FreeAgent for corporation tax returns? No.
You can't do the actual tax returns in it. You've got a corporation tax estimate, but you can't, but you've got, like you do in most softwares, you go to the stage of, you get your trial balance in the software, and then use a filing software like Tax Filer for actually submitting it. FreeAgent does do the self-assessment tax returns, so you can do those directly in the software and submit them to HMRC directly in the software.
And Catherine, were you saying that Sage Accounting now does have a corporation tax submissions module and a
yeah, so it's literally it's now becoming like a one-stop shop, so you can do all your bookkeeping, your accounting, final accounts, and file straight to HMRC. It's all connected to Companies House as well, so if you've got a limited company, it feeds the information, you can check for your AML side of stuff, which is great. And from the self-assessment side, it links. Only had to go on this once, so it links to the HMRC record if you've got all your clients' government gateway ID details, so you can see what's there already to populate stuff. So it's real. I'm going to say, I really like the new stuff that they're bringing out. Definitely a game changer, hopefully.
Chrissy, do you have any experience of, because I also, ICB, we're always looking for software, and I'm very much kind of won over by something that just looks cool and want to try every new tool. And how important do you think it is to try and find something that does everything? Or in your experience, is it better to have something that's best in class, as they say? So a different module for all your little bits and bobs. And somebody's also asked about Payroll. And how easy that is in your software, because that's obviously an extra service you might be offering.
So taking the sort of thing, for me, it is very much a personal preference, and I think this is what I would say to anyone who's sort of starting out or finishing the qualifications and looking to start out is, most of the software have free trials. Try it, most of them will have it where you can have a dummy company, so you can try it on that and actually just spend time and just use it, because actually what I might find really good and might really get on with, someone else may not. So it is very much about that. There's a lot out there, and the software teams, when I first started, I was really worried, sort of came to the conference and that, and it was sort of that thing of, am I just going to be sold to? Am I just going to sort of get the hard sell from everyone? But actually, it's not like that. The software companies are there to help, and they're there to answer the questions, and actually they're there to see if it is the right solution. So talk to the people, but also talk to other bookkeepers, because at the end of the day, they're the people using it day in, day out. Because one of the big things that I really like about FreeAgent is their support. Their support's really good. You go to them with a question, they come back really quickly. It's a really full answer. And for me, when you're juggling a portfolio of clients, when you're juggling different work, actually having a query and having it answered quickly is important. When I was first started out, and perhaps I didn't have as many clients, you don't necessarily see the importance for that. So it's just these little things that I think do make a difference. And you said something about payroll as well, sorry.
Yeah, do you do payroll?
Yes, you can do payroll in FreeAgent. The only limitation that you do have, which it depends obviously again what your client is, it's only monthly payroll. You can't do weekly payroll at the moment. I don't know if there's any plans to change that, but at the moment it is just monthly, which obviously for a lot of sole director, single employee companies, that works, but yeah.
Do you do payroll, Catherine?
Yeah, I'm going to say I offer payroll. I'm going to say I have got separate software, but Sage, I would say Sage Accounting or the Sage Cloud do Sage Payroll, as well as obviously the original desktop Sage Payroll, which I haven't touched for years, so I wouldn't like to review anything on that side. But the Sage Cloud one is so simple to use, and that connects to, obviously it does all your pension, it connects to Nest as well, so you can submit everything through the Sage Cloud, and it literally is, well, it follows points 1 to 5 and you just takes you through it, and you can't, I don't think you can get it wrong, but that's charged independently to the accounting package. But you get all this on your, so if you've got your partner edition, you've got your dashboard that basically has all your clients on it. So you've got your payroll clients, you've got your accounting, you've got your start, but you can now also, since MTD, you've got the VAT centre that you can have all your clients that don't use Sage. You can actually set them up on your partner edition dashboard, which once you've got your agent services account, feeds straight through to HMRC, so you can see their record at HMRC through your dashboard, like you're saying about having one piece of software that does everything, and that's what I'm trying to do more and more of, to get, so I can have my Sage, like the partner edition. Once I've opened that dashboard, that is my, almost like my CRM system.
If you have everybody on Sage?
No, well, no, because like I said, if the VAT and your tax returns and everything, it's just that shows the database of all your clients. So if you do your tax returns through Sage, then yes, but if you've got a client that has their software through one of the other software providers, you can still put them on as the VAT centre, so you can see what their VAT account looks like at HMRC without go into HMRC and finding the information there.
So that's a sort of feature, I guess, a good thing that's come out of MTD, is that level of connectivity between the software.
Yes.
So you can see all of your VAT clients, even if you're not using Sage to do their VAT returns.
Yes.
Very cool. So just look at some of the Q&As here. I don't know which Sarah is this. So she's saying, Amy, Sage Cloud Accounting has had corporation tax for years, so sorry about that. That's not a new feature. And she says, also the Sage 50 Cloud has a much stronger audit trail, which is extremely important in our industry, of course. And there are questions about FreeAgent's audit trail. Do you, Chrissie, have any thoughts about the audit trail?
Not something I've ever really had to look at, to be honest. I know that their reports are, they're sort of adding to their reports, but yeah, I must admit it's not something that I've ever had any concerns with or had to look at in great detail.
Do you think, Catherine, is that something that's sort of dependent on the size of your practice, maybe? How much of the audit trail you're interested in?
Well, no, I'm going to say I know exactly where she's coming from, because that was when I first looked at cloud-based software, when all I used was Sage Desktop. Got to the end of the day and I went, how do I do a backup? There's no feature that allows you to do a backup, and they were like, well, it's in the cloud, you don't need to do a backup. But it's still something I would love for there to be a backup option, because an audit trail, yes, it's an audit trail, but you can't, it would be really difficult to build a set of accounts from that audit trail, whereas with a Sage backup from the desktop, you've got that, and then you can import it, and you've got straight away a full set of accounts to go. But
do you either of you have any experience of losing a whole set of accounts when using cloud software?
No, I'm going to say there's been stuff. I'm going to say, I guess with I'm going to say reverse. Well, I'm going to say with Sage Cloud. Reversing information out once it's been reconciled isn't really an option. You've got to create the other side of the bookkeeping entry and correct it. But if you've got bulk things to change, then recoding and things like that is a lot easier in the cloud-based, whereas in Sage Desktop, for example, if you've got a lot of corrections that you needed to do, you've got to do them individually still. There's not a function that allows you to run to do multiple corrections in one go.
How does FreeAgent deal with multiple corrections? I'm sure most bookkeepers don't have to do them. I don't know. They happen a lot.
I was going to say, I mean, again, it's that because it works around the bank feed and everything on there. So it is a case of, it's easy to amend the bank feed when you get to there. So it's a case of going in and amending it if you need to. But yeah, again, it's not the whole sort of batch entries. I guess the clients I'm looking after, the entries are quite limited on the account. So there isn't sort of that kind of level of work to do, which you perhaps would get with the larger companies. But certainly, again, say nothing that, because from my point of view, I know where to go and sort of look at those things. For me, it's straightforward.
Well, so a couple of comments here that, sorry about the noise there, that audit trail is very useful for VAT inspections. And Sarah says it's useful for checking items when there's an error and what has happened. I also hear a lot from members saying that they keep going back, they go back to the T accounts. I'll draw up a T account if there's an error to check it. Do you do things like that, Chrissie? Does every bookkeeper love a T account?
I will go back to pen and paper and I will look at it manually if to sort of sense check information back and to look back at it, perhaps not to the level of doing a T account and doing that, but yeah, there's always that thing of when you've got something on a screen, it's easier to bring it back to a piece of paper where you can understand the figures and you can understand in front of you. In my opinion, it's easier to do that. And I think that's just something about, and this is where it comes into, it sort of shows how important it is to actually have the bookkeeping knowledge. It's not just a simple case of you've got the software and the software does that, so you're fine and you'll be okay, because actually you need to understand the knowledge behind it. Hence why we obviously do the manual before we do the computerized in the training, in the studies, because actually that is such a key part of it. And it even just comes down to sort of on a general point of view of just being able to, spot errors and things like that. It's having that understanding that means you can do that. And I think sometimes with the accounting software, clients especially, can sort of think, oh, that's fine, I can do it and I'll be okay. But I'm sure we've all dealt with ones where clients come to you going, not quite right, and I don't know quite why it's right and what not right, and you sort of they just thought it was as simple as that's all I do and I don't need to understand it beyond that.
So Sarah has come back and said that she loves T accounts. Catherine, do you think, I always wonder whether we could collectively come up with a set of things that are often get wrong by the software or often get wrong by the client, just to sort of demonstrate the value of a good bookkeeper. Do you find it's the same sort of things that you have to correct all the time? Is that really frustrating?
Yeah, when obviously clients obviously want to do their part and they want to, they can do the inputting and I can just go and check ready for the VAT return. Unfortunately, because they don't understand where a nominal code is applying something to a P&L or a balance sheet, that's where I tend to have to do most of the corrections, where they've, for example, if they serviced a commercial vehicle and they go to put the nominal and it ends up on the balance sheet on motor vehicles because it was something to do with the motor vehicle and it's a P&L item, so it's moving things like that around. Also, when they are wanting to do their own credit control and they get money into the bank and they receive the funds, but they receive it on the day they're doing it rather than the day it hit the bank, which it's fine if it's a day or two, but if it's an old one, it can obviously mess the bank reconciliation up, and if they're on cash accounting, can also end up in the wrong VAT quarter if it's not corrected. So yeah, that's probably the most common two things, I think.
Wow, lots of fixing, and you're doing people's payroll, you're dealing with furloughing and all sorts of things on top of misallocation. So Jules from Bookkeepers in Buckingham, one of our multi-Looper Award winners, has just said that Sage have really upped their game.
Yeah.
exclamation mark. It's definitely our absolute favorite software product. Their business cloud products are seamless. They integrate so well and make our job so easy by having year-end software built in. And support is fantastic. That's great, because actually I think in the past Sage has not fared very well in the sort of support reviews.
See, I've always argued that, because I've always had, with Sage, I love the fact you can pick the phone up and speak to somebody.
Well, you are literally their poster girl. So if anyone who wasn't there, Catherine Pyman was on the Sage exhibition stand at the Bookkeeper Summit 2019. So you were like twice your normal size.
I think about 5 times my normal size.
So, you know, they obviously like you.
No,
or is it vice versa?
But yeah, I was going to say, ringing up, went through a stage where, especially with MTD, that you had a bit of a wait to get through. But since lockdown, if I've had to ring them up, there's been no wait time at all. And I've also got a fantastic manager that is, sometimes I'll just email him or ring him, and it's like, at the moment I'm migrating some accounts from desktop to accounting, and he's just there, just helping me whatever I need. And it's great. I just don't feel as though you get that from other software.
But FreeAgent, of course, has won an award for being the friendliest software, and they've got like a great social media. They've got a whole a whole Instagram account which is about their staff, and you know, they've got like pictures of their staff going on cleaning up missions at the sea, at the beach. Are they as lovely as they seem to be on social media?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the other thing, obviously, said about the support for FreeAgent, but the other thing that they do that I really love, and this is when I first was introduced to them and got accredited, that it's something that I've always shared with clients, regardless of what software they use, is their infographics. They do great infographics around sole trader working from home, director working from home, what can I claim, you know, out on the road, what can I claim for food and drink, all those kind of things that actually break it down in a really easy to understand way. And I often share that when I sort of have sole traders starting, I'll often share with them those sort of, you know, you've got 2 calculations and this explains it really clearly. You just follow the flow chart and that explains it. So the support from FreeAgent on that side is really good. And like you said, on Instagram, but also on Twitter, you know, they do a lot on Twitter for that as well. They're all sharing information, and I think it's the things that you perhaps wouldn't necessarily think of. So one of the things I remember seeing on there, and I sort of thought, I've never thought about that, is about student loan repayments if you're a sole trader. How does that work? Or maternity pay if you're a sole trader, how does that work? And these sort of things that you perhaps wouldn't think about, but actually you may come across at some point. So yeah.
We've actually got disclaimer, and we've got somebody from the FreeAgent sales team watching us, by the way, Nathan. I feel like Nathan is one of the FreeAgent boys who hasn't been to the Bookkeepers Summit yet. Do correct me.
Is that Nathan Kearns?
Yes.
Was he there last year? Because he the year.
The year before.
He gave me when I won. I can't remember which award.
Oh, he presented.
I can't remember which year it was, but the one when FreeAgent sponsored it. Yeah.
Okay, I take it back. Sorry, Nathan. But anyway, so he wants to add his 2 cents. He says FreeAgent doesn't have an audit trail. Okay, big news. No audit trail. The good news, however, is that it is being designed and built at the moment with the intention of release at the end of this year. Ooh, exciting. And he's happy to share more information if you would like to contact him. So that's exciting. I mean, for me, technology is just improving at the most exponential rate. And I say this partly because I've been looking at all these virtual event platforms, and every 5 seconds they've got a new feature. So it's that's really great to be using software that's constantly innovating. On the flip side, Faye is tuning in support of Sage. She's been on Sage Desktop for years. I think she's saying 16 years, which is a very long time. But she's migrated 12 businesses over to Sage Cloud, and she saw that at the ICB Roadshow. So I presume that's the Inspire tour. back when it was a real life event. And then also you get more support. So it's 24/7 versus 9 to 5 for desktop. So those are some other cool reasons to go online. I wonder, actually, we should probably do a poll, and I'm saying this to Sobi. I wonder if we should do a poll maybe to find out how many people have still got anybody are still using desktop software. Maybe it's loads of people.
So I think it depends on as well the size of the business, because I think the bigger the businesses, they're always going to need that desktop version, because I just don't think the cloud, I mean, I'm not an IT expert, I could be completely wrong, but I don't think the cloud is the systems to support a huge business. I think it, especially where like there's lots of stock and that side of stuff, I don't think it's as easy. But I just think it's probably from a more of a security side. I don't know, to have your desktop and you know that's you're going to go in and do your accounting. I think there will still always be businesses that want to be desktop, and I want to say I'm happy to work with those businesses. You know, it's still worked really well. Something's popped up.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Let's go. Software. Are you still using desktop software? Desktop accounting software specifically. So at the moment, so when we went virtual, well, you know, during lockdown, ICB team has all been working from home. I'm very pleased to say we've probably said this lots of times. We haven't luckily had to furlough anybody, and we're taking on more staff. And so we've been using Microsoft Teams, and I've got a desktop version and the browser version, and I flip between one and the other, and I still can't make my mind up. So yeah, 71% still using desktop software, 72%. Well, that's exciting. And Sarah has said that, yeah, Sage 50 Cloud can be used anywhere with the desktop, and employees can use it anywhere. And then also says that the suppliers and debtor screens and reports are stronger on all cloud versions. I mean, presumably there's kind of, you know, do you get to a point where you're you know, you need to make like minute changes again and again, and to sort of reload it every time on online takes time? Or is that kind of old-fashioned thinking?
What, depending on the speed of broadband?
Yeah, exactly.
The office where I'm at, I've just replaced their broadband provider, and part of my contract is I have to use their broadband, which has been a bit of a nightmare, because obviously I do need a fast broadband, but because if your broadband isn't fast enough, then yes, you will struggle. And I think a lot of people don't realise how many remote places there are that everyone's not in a big city with fibre optic speed. And I mean, I'm in a small town, so it's, to me, it's not that rural, but we still struggle with broadband, so it's still not as fast as I guess down south.
Somebody had asked, yeah, just for us to sort of confirm that you still do need fibre optic is the best. That's it. Anonymous attendee says, yeah, fibre optic is the best. I've been very pleased with mine, but unfortunately I can't get, my Netflix doesn't work. If I'm trying to do ICB TV, I can't use my #1 child distraction tool, which is obviously educational content only, of course. So Faye says, yeah, I only do debtors, creditors, bank and VAT. So glad my clients can go into the cloud. Can't wait for bank feeds. Oh yes, of course. So you haven't been having bank feeds on the desktop versions. Excuse the noise. And presumably that's a huge, huge win for bookkeepers, is bank feeds being automatically.
Is that bank feeds on desktop? There is bank feeds on desktop from version 25 onwards.
Oh, wow.
Or is it version 24 onwards? I'll have to double check. But yeah, I have bank feeds on, but they're very different. They don't look anything like Sage Cloud bank feeds. I would say it took me a while to get used to them, and the most efficient way of using them. But yes, they do work. So.
Fantastic. Yes, we've had a couple of people saying, yeah, they do have it on desktop, but Faye has just never used it. Thank you, Susan Whelan, for confirming that. Am I right in thinking that on some software packages you have to reconnect your bank feeds every 3 months? Is that still the same now that you've got the promise of open banking?
Yes, lovely open banking.
Yeah, so I think it's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, where are the benefits? Are you still reconnecting bank feeds?
Yeah,
for all of your clients?
every 3 months. But a lot of the work for my clients that don't have loads of entries, rather than have the hassle, I just get the bank statements and send them to auto entry and import them that way. And I'm in more control. Not that I'm a control freak, but I just think I'm not then having to go keep them asking clients to do stuff, because I think if I was a client, I wouldn't want my bookkeeper asking me this, that, and the other all the time. I just want a solution.
So would you say that auto entry allows you to be less naggy?
Yeah.
Maybe that's too loaded a word.
One of my clients used that term with me the other day, so I'm not quite sure what that means.
It's not the best word.
No, but yeah, but if they don't provide the information, then yes, I will have to keep asking. So if there's another way I can get the information without asking, then it makes life a lot easier.
So obviously auto entry was bought by Sage, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
have there been any fun developments there? Is it easier to combine the two?
There's a link from Sage Accounting now from your the business tools. You can link straight to auto entry, so it has made it, I guess, more easy on that side. But I was using auto entry before Sage bought them, so it was just a case of integrating the two, I guess, my accounts with both companies.
Handy. Chrissy, do you use any sort of automation add-on like that?
Yeah, I use auto entry as well.
Boring answer.
Sorry.
Did you consider other tools?
Again, when I first started out, I did that research and for me, where my client base at the start, it came down to price. Choosing auto entry over other options. And then because I've now used it for a couple of years, actually, I'm familiar with it. So actually, it's a bigger move then to move to something else. But auto entry does what I need it to do.
Well, that's it.
And it works well. So
auto entry has developed loads as well, and the capability what that can do now as well. So I found something the other day. I can't remember what it was now, but I was just like, oh, didn't know it did that. So that was that was quite handy.
So I think, Amy, this comes back to what you were saying around the whole thing of, you know, it's companies that are continuing to develop, and you know, I think there's so many of them and it's the software where they listen to the end user, they're listening to accountants and bookkeepers who use them, and actually they're making the changes that actually make it more user friendly, that make it better, but actually, you know, using the experience around them, which is great.
And what Sophie and I certainly tell partners when we work with them is that bookkeepers are very much more useful in that sense than your sort of your typical once a year accountant, because you've really got your fingers in the software. Would you say that's true? Am I sort of?
I would agree with that. No, I would agree with that, absolutely. And matter of fact, literally speaking to a client this morning, it's a new client I've taken on. They're actually on QuickBooks. And the accountant's taken on, he started the year end, he has some queries, which I'm looking at. And the client sort of said to me, well, when you finish that, will you then send the reports to the accountant again? I said, well, does he not have access to it? And he's like, oh no, he's old school, he doesn't really do that. And that's, you know, that's fine. So yeah, I think it's hard then.
There's a lot of accountants that are very, very old school.
Yeah. Yeah, which it makes it, because obviously you say using the software day in, week in, month in, it does mean that we use it a lot more generally.
So are you trying to change them or take over from them?
What, with accountants?
These old style accountants.
I would say just work with them. There was a few that asked me to support them with MTD and get them in the right place they needed to be. Another one heard I used auto entry, so asked if I would go in and show his staff how to use auto entry. So they are, but then, like you say, I think there's still some that just won't change, which, yes, it would be lovely for me to go in and go, right, I'm going to come and take all your clients, but unfortunately I haven't quite got that capacity yet.
But I think it does very much come down to as well, doesn't it? It's that thing of we're more likely then, you know, it's like this accountant sort of comes to them saying, well, actually, there's a lot of supplier invoices outstanding at the year end. Some of them are outstanding for more than 12 months. And, you know, we've looked at it and actually they've been paid on PayPal, they've been paid on things that, and it just hasn't been updated in QuickBooks. But actually, you know, the accountant can obviously spot, well, actually, that doesn't look right. But they wouldn't then be able to say, right, well, I'll then sort it and do the bit in QuickBooks that then makes it right.
Do you know what? I'm a bit concerned about the time, because it's like we've been on for 45 minutes and I feel like we've only just started. I just wondered, so just in the chat from Facebook, no, actually this is from the chat. Michael Stockford has a technical question. For a manual entry in FreeAgent, how do you change the bank if it was incorrectly entered?
I think if something's uploaded incorrectly, I assume he means, or if something's missing, you can amend, you can upload. So I've had it before where, yeah, it's missed, like with the bank feed, if it's not reconnected quick enough or whatever, you may miss a transaction, but you can upload manually. So you can upload manually and do that. And this is where the support team, you know, are great, because I mean, I had one once where I think it was a new client I put onto FreeAgent. I did it the wrong way round, in that I set up the VAT return before I did something else, and then it messed it all up. And I went to them and they sort of step by step, this is what you need to do here, this is what you need to journal it, this is how you do it. And it's such a full answer that, you know, things like that, they're always there to help and to talk through, which is great.
Oh, that's good. So I just wanted to do a bit of a shout out actually to South Africa. We've got Leila Bianca Zuma joining us from South Africa. She says hi on Facebook. And we've also got Janine Smith from Australia. Hello. Yeah, we're online. We're totally global if we need to be. Bookkeeping is bookkeeping, I suppose, and all the software is everywhere. And you can do bookkeeping from the beach if you are desperately in need. So I don't know if you would ever do that. Somebody actually emailed me once and said, it's so great I can do VAT returns on the beach. And I was like, you've got it wrong. Take some time off. Just in terms of the actual products again, do you have a sense of how much you're actually paying per client for your respective packages, as it were? And do you usually pass that on directly to the client, as in do you itemize it? Or do they pay for it themselves? Catherine?
Yeah, I'm going to say I've got some ones that I've taken on the client, they've already got the software, then they tend to have a subscription already. So I just leave it that way unless we get to a position where I'll decide to take it over for them. But my monthly fees, majority of them, I tend to include, I'll do the fixed fee, including software, and incorporate it in there. Some of them like it invoiced separately, but that tends to be more the clients that don't use Sage, because for what I pay for that, I just invoice it straight on. But I'm going to say they do offers all the time as to different packages, and like I said, the new final accounts and the personal tax, I think that's just going to be a set annual fee, but I don't know whether you'll be able to pay that monthly. And again, for the partner edition, I think you get so many accounts, but or accounting packages, but I think you probably need to speak to Sage to decide on which ones you need for your practice. I'm not sure if that's helpful.
Well, it wasn't like £9 a month, I suppose.
No.
It's not what you said, but so it depends really how many features you're using.
Well, well, that's it, because the Sage Start is obviously a lot cheaper, and the Sage Accounting is, I'm going to say, I'm not sure what it retails at now. I think I'm not sure if that is at 20 or 22, but I think everything's discounted at the moment. So, but I think they're all more or less around the same monthly figure.
Faye has mentioned that there's a 6 months free offer from Sage, which means very generous. 6 months free. And I think what she's saying is that she's only now going to charge for the software for the first time to her clients, but always invoice for auto entry. So that's interesting. So Chrissy, how does billing work with FreeAgent?
So with FreeAgent, again, you can either have it that the client's billed direct, or you can have it that it's billed through the accountant or bookkeeper. So when the accountant or bookkeeper reaches the different stages, they've got different statuses. So I'm bronze status at the moment, which means I get a discount on the fees and I pass that straight on to my clients. So I get billed for it and I pass the reduced amount straight on to my clients. Quite a few of my clients get the free licenses that you mentioned because they've got bank accounts with NatWest or Metal. But with FreeAgent, it's a one price. So there's a price for a sole trader and there's a price for a limited company, but it's that one price regardless of how many users you've got, and that includes the payroll. So the payroll is included in that, whether you use it or not. It's just a set fee that you pay per month for everything. It doesn't do sort of the tiers or anything like that. It is just a set price for the users.
I've just looked at some information, but then I will say this was dated in January. So the cheapest version is £7 a month, and the full accounting is £18 a month plus that. So that's
Per client.
Yeah.
And that's if you buy it as their bookkeeper.
Well, that's it. But then I'm going to say you get, like I said, there's discounts. Like I said, at the moment, there's the 6-month one. And I think if you register for the partner edition, you'd get a discount on that. So you then can pass that discount on if you wish, or just charge it as it is advertised.
So Jules from Bookkeepers in Buckingham has just come back, and I'm asking her to clarify. But for your information, Jules is spending about £500 a month for everything, she says, with Sage, and they charge it on. That's plus VAT. You'll probably be interested to know. In terms of your fees and your clients' willingness to pay you, are you using any sort of tools and techniques, and are you finding it sort of easier or harder to get paid and paid what you're worth? Chrissy?
I personally haven't had any issues with this.
Ever?
Even not, I mean, when I first started out, my very first client wasn't the best client and was very slow paying, so I soon disengaged and moved on from them. But aside from that, and even over the last sort of 4 months with everything going on, I've not had any issues with any clients paying me, which has been really good. And I think part of that comes down to, Catherine said before, you know, having that ongoing relationship with them. It's not just, well, actually you're paying a monthly fee, but you don't speak to me, you don't see me, you don't hear from me. Actually, you know, we're in regular contact with, you know, the work's going on throughout the month. So actually, I think it makes it easier than perhaps if it's a set fee and they don't have any contact. But yeah, apart from that first one, initial one, which I think was a bad choice, it's not been an issue.
And how are you billing them? Are you billing them through FreeAgent for your services?
Yes, yeah. So I do. Yeah, I mean, I bill on a variety of things. So I either have fixed fees, or some I charge hourly. Some I charge monthly. It really depends on the client and what they want, and obviously how it works for me. So I do a variety of billing.
And it's
I have them set up for recurring invoices. So it just.
You have what set up for recurring invoices?
My invoices. So you can just set them up and then they just go out, and you know, you kind of just wait then for the money to come in.
So when you say my invoices, do you just mean your invoices?
My invoice to them.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, sorry. Yeah. So my.
And you just send that out through FreeAgent.
So if it's just a set fee, obviously the ones that are hourly, obviously I calculate and work out how much. But when I've got ones which are just a monthly fee or BEX, the invoice can just go out the end of the month without any worries.
Yeah, obviously I'm the same. I've got so many that are fixed fee that just go out, and then the ones that are on hourly. Obviously the hourly ones have only been the trickier ones since lockdown, because a lot of the businesses have ground to a halt. So I haven't actually been going in and doing the work as I would usually, but my fixed fee ones, I've continued on with the fixed fee, and I've just been there for support. And I'm going to say, yes, some of them have got quieter, some of them have got busier, but the job retention scheme has created so much extra work for me. So what I've not been doing on bookkeeping, I've been doing on job retention. So it's hopefully balanced itself out, that everyone's being charged appropriately.
So does all software do that now? Is that very standard, just that you charge on a sort of recurring basis, send it all out automatically? Does it all get posted back automatically? Like when you get the payment in, does it get allocated for you?
Well, yes, that'll come back on the back feed and then match it up that way. So, but yeah, I'm going to say, because Sage Accounting have now got recurring invoices, because they didn't have recurring invoices for quite a long time, but which was a bit of a bugbear, because I've had a few clients that were wanting to switch, but until they could do recurring, but that facility is now there. So it's again another tick in the box for Sage for making that available.
And do Sage and FreeAgent both sort of provide incentives for you to bring on more clients? So bookkeepers in Buckingham have just said that they do get a commission back every quarter. Do you get one, Catherine?
I do. I forget about it, to be honest. In fact, I forgot about it that much. I realised I hadn't had one, so I had to chase it. So it was quite a nice little amount that came through. But yeah, I would say I don't know. I'm going to say I'm not sure how it exactly works, but I don't know if it's. I think it's through both Sage Desktop and Sage Accounting. So it's and that's. But I'm going to say I don't see that as, like I said, as an incentive. I use Sage because I want to use Sage. Like I said, I'd forgotten about it until somebody else mentioned it, and I thought, oh, I'll have a look. And yes, I've not signed something that I was meant to sign. So.
My kids are making such a racket upstairs. So what I think I should do, even though there's so many things I want to ask, I wonder, Sobi, as we wrap up, would you be able to do a little poll and ask people what software they're using? And I guess some people are probably, like you guys, using more than one type of software. So if it can be non-exclusive, so who are the big guys? We could have Sage, should we say Sage Desktop? Sage Accounts?
Yeah.
Sage Accounting.
Sage Desktop.
And QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, FreeAgent. Who else have we got who's worth using? Anybody I'm missing? ClearBooks, Cashflow, with a K.
Yeah.
Xero, of course. Thank you, Faye. I knew there was something that I was forgetting.
Sorry, can you repeat them for me?
Yeah, answers in the Q&A, guys. Help us out. Xero, the two Sages, let's say Sage Desktop and Sage Accounting, because we all sort of know what that means. And then we're going to class Sage 50 Cloud as desktop, I think.
Yeah.
FreeAgent, QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, and then maybe an other for everybody else. Oh my gosh, my kids are really shouting. Can you hear them? Okay, good. So what I was wondering, just to sort of sum up, as advice, if everyone can do the poll, yeah, while we're talking, but just to sum up, if you are, say, new to the game, you've just set up your practice, what would you say, Catherine, are your sort of top requirements for software that people should be looking out for?
I think definitely to set the partner edition up, so you've got a database of licenses available to be getting on with. And like I said, once you've got a manager, there is normally, they'll offer you an introductory rate of something. And I think, and going on from there, like I said, using the different tools between being bookkeeper friendly or customer friendly, so you can switch between those two. And yeah, I'm going to say, and if you're not sure, just ask the question. So I think for me starting out, I didn't really have anybody to ask until I got more involved with the ICB, and then it was, you've got this huge support network there that's there to help. So
yeah, so go to your local virtual branch meeting.
Yeah.
You run a branch yourself, don't you, Catherine? So
yeah, the virtual one's taken off huge. So
there we go. No excuses now, guys.
Yeah, most ever. And I think you can go to any branch now as well, don't you? You don't have to go to
You can.
a region.
And I guess you don't have to say anything if you don't want to.
No, although I do try to make them all say something.
As you should. Everyone should get involved. So Chrissie, you know, top things to look out for if you're on the start of your bookkeeping software journey.
So for me, it would be speak to other bookkeepers and try it. Sign up for the free trials. So most of them have free trials, if not all of them. So sign up for a free trial. Try it for your own books. Try it and see what you like about it, what feels right. Use the support that's there. Use the the help desks that are there, just to get a feel again for that kind of support. Definitely, but try it. I think that's the only way you know whether it will work for you and your practice, because at the end of the day, if you are sticking to one or two, then essentially you are selling that when you go out and see clients. So obviously you need to be comfortable with it, that actually it's the right tool and actually it does what you need it to do to be able to do that. So definitely, yes, they use those free trials, and also the accreditations as well. You know, the accreditations are there to obviously help with using the software, help with your understanding, give you the tools to do that. And most of the accreditations, you know, software companies do those free of charge. And I know FreeAgent, they have training days, they have their road shows when you can go and you can have a session with them, and then you can do the accreditation as part of it, certainly when life gets back to normal anyway. But go to these things and just, for me, get as much experience and as much knowledge as you can, so that you can then make that decision for your practice as to what's best for you. And there's nothing wrong with using a variety of software. If that works for you, then that's absolutely fine. Some people may choose it, some people may not, but actually don't be afraid to do what is right for you and what you feel is right for you. And if you need to change it further down the line, you can change it, but just, yeah, do what feels right for you.
Yeah, obviously I agree. And I think, like I say, with the support that you can get, then it's and like there's nothing wrong with using other softwares. Like I say, when you get a new client, if they don't use the software that you're used to, it's not saying that you can't take them on as a client. Everybody, honestly, like I say, other people from ICB will have somebody else that knows more about another product. I mean, I use different practices depending on what software my clients use, so I pick their brains if I'm not 100% sure.
Fantastic. So bookkeepers being very flexible, doing what's best for the client, not being afraid to ask questions. So I love that both of you said, you know, use the community, ask to find out more. So we've got the results of the poll. Apologies if you could only select one of the software packages. But it looks like in terms of online software, so maybe what we've had is most people have just gone Sage Desktop because they use it, which was 27% of you, and the biggest number, followed by Sage Accounting at 15%. But in terms of the rest of the online software, Xero is out in front at 17%, but so only just QuickBooks Online at 15%, but 15% other. So I think maybe what we should do is try and drill down a little bit into those, into that data, and get some more questions to ask, because possibly the Zoom software is not as good as it should be. But so that's very interesting. 27% of people using Sage Desktop. Yeah, maybe you will shift over to online after this. So thank you ever so much, Catherine and Chrissie. It's been so wonderful to have you here. I want a rematch, basically. I think that was a sort of disappointing draw. But I suppose, you know, what we've really found out is there's no easy answer. The software that you choose is very personal. They all have great features and they're all developing all the time. So thank you, software providers, I suppose. Thank you, FreeAgent. Thank you, Sage, for listening to ICB members and letting us help you improve your product. So that's it from me. Thanks so much, Catherine.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you very much, Chrissie.
Thank you.
By the way.
And that's my kid at the door. So have a lovely afternoon, everybody. We will be back with Thank Fellow, it's Friday, on Friday.
Okay.
Have a great
Okay.
afternoon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.